The God's Wood at King's Landing had no heart tree, only a pool glazed with dust and the reflected tremor of the torches that ringed the cloister. It smelled of warm leaves and stale water instead of snow, and Eddard Stark could not escape the sense that he was praying to a memory. The air pressed on his shoulders like a damp cloak. Frogs peeped somewhere in the reeds. From the red stone maze beyond, far off and muffled, rose the cough and clatter of the city that never slept. Carts on cobbles, sailors bawling on the Blackwater, the low animal rumble of 1,000 unseen lives rubbing together in heat and hunger. He went to one knee on the bank. The grass had grown coarse here, sturdy southern blades that scratched his palm. In Winterfell the gods would smelled of iron and earth and green. He could taste the cold if he opened his mouth. Here even the night had a flavor of wine gone sour. "Forgive me," he said, and knew that the words were for his own ears. "I have done what I thought right." A mild voice drifted from shadow. "And do you think they heard?" Eddard rose with the slow uncoiling of a man who has learned not to lurch. "How long have you been there?" His hand did not go to the dagger at his belt. In the capital, steel too quickly bared cut more than throats. "A man in silk rustles," Varys said, and stepped into the starlight, oval face glazed with the sheen of the evening. The cloth clung to him. His perfume, faint as sugar on air, could not quite bury the human scent beneath. "I have no talent for trees." Ned looked at the pool. "Is he dying?" The eunuch folded his hands into his sleeves. For a moment he seemed a tall child in a mummer's robe. "Yes," he said simply. "Not tonight, but soon enough that prudent men will make their arrangements." Prudent men. Ned let the words settle. He could feel each reed, each pea-sized pebble, under the soles of his boots. Prudent men do not hunt in brothels nor drink with boormen. Nor do queens play at being mothers to children who are not their husband's issue, Varys said, so mildly it might have been about the weather. "And yet, here we all are." Ned turned. "Why are you here?" Varys's eyes glittered like dew before dawn. "Because you spoke to the queen. Because you warned her. Because I thought perhaps you are the only man in King's Landing who will tell a mother to run and then stand still when she does not." "I told her to take her children and go," Ned said. "I gave her a choice." "Kindness," Varys said, his mouth cooling the word. "Kindness is good, Lord Stark. It is also a hammer that dents only air." "I'm not a butcher." "No," Varys said, "and so you must be something else. A wall perhaps. The realm loves walls. They stand until walls crack." He tilted his head. "A pretty speech from a eunuch. You know why I came. Your daughters. Your honor. The city. Take your choice in any order you like. They all stand on one plank, slick with oil." He smiled. "Janos Slint was seen today in Baelish's counting house. My birds chirp about coin hauled like oysters from the river. The watch is hungry. He knows which hand is filling his bowl." "Baelish is the master of coin," Ned said. "Indeed," Varys murmured, "and a master of many small coins that roll under furniture when one is not looking." He made a little fluttering motion. "I am clumsy with numbers. I only know that men with hungry children do not stay bought unless the purse stays open." Ned set his jaw. It was a face for weather Catelyn had once teased him, a face made to take wind without complaint. In the city's night, his own breath came back to him warmer than it went out. "I will speak to Slint," he said, "and to the commanders under him. Bywater is said to be a hard man. Is he honest?" "As men go," Varys said. "He has a stubborn streak that offends some. These are virtues sometimes." He spread his pale hands. "The queen will not run, my lord. She believes the Lannisters have given this city more gold than the gods. She thinks a lion's roar frightens even the stones. She will put her cub on the throne the instant the king's eyes shut. She will have paper of her own and guards of her own, and there will be words and then there will be blood, possibly in that order." His eyes dropped to the water. "Your northern bluntness is a fine spear. In King's Landing, blunt spears break." "Speak plain," Ned said. "You call me a fool standing in a garden." Varys lifted his eyes. I call you a man trying to be good in a place that punishes goodness. You warned the queen. You went to her as if she were Caitlin at your hearth. Tell her the truth. Give her the carriage and horse. Wish her a safe road. She listened to your truth as if it were a tale told by a man drunk on honor. He stepped closer, and Ned could smell powder and the hot wick of rank flesh beneath it, like a candle that had burned too long. Do not give Cersei Lannister another dawn, he said. Do not wait for Renly's smiles or for Baelish's smirks. If your hand is on the tiller, steer. If not, cut your hand off before the wheel pulls you under. Ned felt the gods would hold its breath. The frogs had grown still. The castle seemed to listen. You ask me to commit treason. I ask you to save your children, Varys said, gentle as rain. And perhaps the realm, if the gods have not already given it to wolves and crows. When Varys had gone, the night resumed its ordinary noises. Ned remained, taking in the common miracle that nothing in the garden had changed, though something in him had shifted an inch, perhaps two. He could feel it under his breastbone, that slow, grinding movement. When he finally left the trees, the air outside the cloister tasted of heated copper and old wine. He crossed the inner ward by habit's map, his feet taking him down the long, narrow ways that threaded through red stone like veins, past iron sconces that burned with a steady orange, past servants carrying baskets of linens, past Lannister G. Wards with gilt lions on their chests who turned eyes as blank as polished brass to follow him. He wore the hand's pin at his breast, the gaudy gold hand with lapis at the cuff. It weighed no more than it had that afternoon, yet he could feel its pull as if gravity had grown sly. The tower of the hand breathed around him like a tired animal. In his solar, the big northern sword lay upon its rack, a black length that drank light, ice. He set his palm on the worn leather of the grip and felt the wile of the steel sleeping under its sheath, old cold caught in new heat. He remembered holding it across his bent knees on mornings in Winterfell when the snow came like ash, and how the blade had seemed to hum at the edge of sound when the headman's task lay ahead. In the capital, even a sword became a story people told each other. Tommard, Fat Tom, snored softly in a chair beside the door, his mouth open to the night. His lips made a shape like a child's. Ned stood a moment, watching the big man sleep, thinking of the boy he had likely been with his first wooden sword, earnest and sweating and pleased when some lordling's swing knocked him onto his arse because each bruise had meant he would get better. There was not much getting better left for men like them. Tom, Ned said quietly. Fat Tom's eyes opened as if they had never been closed. He lurched up, his bulk surprisingly fast. Lord, apologies. We will go to the barracks of the city watch, Ned said. Quietly, wake Cain and Desmond. Varley too. Leave enough men for the girls. Tom rubbed the sleep from his face. His brow creased, but he did not ask why. Aye. Tell Jory to rouse thee. The habit snapped Ned's mouth shut. The name had come as easily as breath, and the hole it left pulled at him. Jory's laugh came to Ned's ear in answer, and then the sound of it vanished as if a door had shut, and Ned remembered the blood running out of Jory like wine spilled on the street, and he held the memory steady until it no longer felt like it could throw him. Tom had seen his lord's halt, and looked away to busy his hands with his belt buckle. Ned's people had known him since his beard was thin. They gave him that sort of mercy. He summoned Poole next, the steward, thin and red-eyed from too much ink. My lord, Vayan Poole asked, a pen still in his hand as if he feared the parchment would escape if he let go. Send a boy to the Street of Steel. Find the armorer Tobo Mott. Tell him to send his best man at once to the Tower of the Hand for repair of the hand's guard's blades. He met the steward's question without letting the other man speak it. Yes, at night. I'll pay a craftsman to work beneath the moon if that keeps the sun from seeing. He felt tired, and that frightened him more than shadows. Fatigue tricked a man into thinking the simplest thing must be the most right. There was nothing simple left. When Tom returned with Cain, Varley, and Desmond marching at his heels, Ned took only a dozen men. The rest he left scattered with intent. Extra pairs beneath the girls' windows, an old soldier in the corridor between their chambers, a boy near the kitchens who could run fast if he must. He kept his voice low when he told Septa Mordain that Sansa would not go to evening prayers in the sept tomorrow, and that Arya was not to be let out of the tower with anyone but the Hand's own men. The Septa pursed her lips, disapproval and worry warring on her face. "My lord, Sansa has been promised to. She has been promised by me a walk in the northern air," Ned said, and it was the first true joke he'd made in days. Startled them both. The Septa sniffed. "As you will, my lord." Sansa's chamber had a flutter of whispers behind it as he walked past. Arya's door was quiet. He paused an instant outside the younger girl's room and heard a rhythm he knew. The soft wick of wood striking wood, the padding of bare feet, a tiny breathless grunt, a pause and then again. He let it pass. A father had to choose when to close one eye and when to open both. The barracks of the city watch crouched like a barn on the street of seeds, with the stink of men and oil and brass hung in the air like a coat. Janos Slint's office reeked of him. Old leather, candle smoke, collar. He was not there. The man who received them had a flag-helmed face and a lamplight gleam in his one good eye that looked like cleverness and might have been patience. Jagged scars bit his knuckles. He saluted with a missing finger. "Captain Bywater," Ned said. "Lord Hand," the captain replied. He sent men running for pots and cups. They came back with small beer. Tasted like bread that had forgotten how to rise. "I know the watch can be bought," Ned said, because a Northman's gift to a Southerner was often a blunt knife. "I'd like to know if it can be rented by the month rather than by the hour." Bywater's mouth pressed thin. "We are paid from the city's purse," he said. "From a purse Baelish keeps a hand in," Ned said. "Coin given in secret is often owed in secret." Bywater studied the foam in his cup as if it had written him a letter. "Are you asking me if my men will do their duty regardless of who dangles a purse? I'm asking you if you will, and if you will help me place men where their duty is easier to remember than coin is to smell." Bywater lifted his eye to meet Ned's. "There are ways to make men remember," he said. "My lord will forgive me. Oaths are meat to hungry dogs when cooked in a court kitchen. If the king dies, and forgive me again, if the king dies, this city will try to climb onto whatever horse looks like it can carry it. If you want the watch to stand, Lord Stark, make it so that the watch believes you will stand longer than anyone else." "I will stand as long as the law stands." Ned heard his own words and knew how words could be swept. He put his palm flat on Slint's desk, pressing the grains out of the wood. "There is a paper. It names me regent until the rightful heir is ready to take the throne. I will show it to you when the time is needful and not before. I do not ask you to betray a queen. I ask you to keep the peace in truth, not in name." Bywater's eye ticked. "And the rightful heir? Stannis Baratheon," Ned said. The word left his mouth and made the room feel cleaner. "The king's brother." Bywater gave a soft grunt that might have been approval or might have been indigestion. "He has a reputation for being fair." "He has a reputation for being just," Ned said. "Fair spills less blood than just, but just spills less gold." He glanced at Tom, who stepped forward with a small strongbox whose weight made him grunt despite himself. Ned set it on the desk and turned its key. The coin inside gleamed like leased suns. "Wages, for hazard beyond ordinary duty," he said. "Advance for 3 months. To each captain based on his roster. Keep men with wives, men with children. Tell them the watch will hold order. Tell them the Hand has no patience for markets set aflame or bakeries looted. If any man wishes to know how long the coin shall hold, you may bring him to me and I will tell him with my own voice." Bywater looked at the coin long enough that the room began to imagine what it might smell like if you could smell it. When he lifted his gaze, he did not look at Ned's face but at the pin on his breast. "Men say the Hand's pin rusts quickly in this city," he said. "Then I will have the smiths polish it each night." Bywater gave a short nod. "I cannot answer for the Lord Commander, nor for his lieutenants. I can say where patrols go." He took up a grease pencil and a vellum map marked with wards ringed around the hill of the Red Keep like tree rings. "Here and here," he said. setting the butt of the pencil down with little taps. When a city thinks it might be about to change kings, the alleys just off the fish market grow thick with men who would like to be paid to protect anyone who will pay them. I will post my most leaden-arsed sergeants there, near the mud gate as well. He looked at Ned. And the Red Keep? I want 50 of your best in the throne room when I summon you, Ned said. You will take your orders from me in the name of King Robert. When the paper is shown, from me in the name of the lawful government of this realm. Bywater drew a finger down the side of his nose. Shall I inform Lord Slint? Ned listened to the rhythm of his own heart and measured how quickly it moved. No, he said. Inform your lieutenants. Quietly. If Slint asks, tell him you are moving the patrols to prevent unrest in the Flea Bottom. That will be true enough. When he left the barracks, the night had thinned, and a gray that could not decide whether it was dawn or smoke stood over the river. Ned drew breath and tasted wet ash. In the thin light, the city looked younger. It was a trick of mornings, and he refused to fall for it. He slept 3 hours and woke feeling as if he had been rolling in a cart. In the first bell, a knock came that was soft but insistent. Yoren, raw-boned and shaggy as a mastiff, stood in his doorway smelling of horse and old sweat and the straw dust that clung to his black cloak. Your man Varys told me to look in on you, he said without preamble. Said you had some word for the wall. Ned raised a brow. Varys sends ravens now? Yoren's mouth made a little twist that might have been a smile if you had known him 10 years. He tells me where to be to find things worth hearing. He scratched under the stubble of his cheek with a sound like sand. I'm for the north within 2 days. We're lean on recruits. I don't stay when the city gets twitchy.
Ned nodded.
The Watch was a river that ran north. If you had something to cast onto it, you had to do so when the current passed your bank. He took Yoren to his solar and sealed letters with a fist that did not tremble. One went to Maester Luwin at Winterfell with brief words for Robb folded inside. Another to Stannis at Dragonstone. You are Robert's heir by law and blood. The king lies dying. Come with all speed. Trust no one who smiles too readily. He added a list of names that he trusted least, and it pleased him that he did not know some of their faces. Naming shadows felt like magic of a sort. He sent another to Lord Commander Mormont at the wall, for he found, as he wrote, that he wanted to tell the old bear that the realm might soon be louder beneath his feet. Yoren watched as if the words would come through the sealing wax and leap, burned, into the air. For my daughters, Ned said as he pressed his seal into the last wax. It was not a letter. It was a purse of coin, stitched into the lining of a coarse cloak that would fit a gangling boy. You may find yourself in need of a pair of hands to help with your miserable recruits, Ned said, or a girl and a septa who must be sent to the river to dip their feet. If one of my men brings you such a tale, you'll take them and ask me questions later. Yoren's eyes were old in that lean face. Girls go missing in King's Landing every day. These must not, Ned said. Yoren tucked the cloak under his arm as if it were a bundle of twigs. The wall takes all. He scratched his cheek again. A girl with a needle's face came by the stables the other day asking me if I had seen any wolves about. I told her wolves don't come so far south for the stink. She told me perhaps the wolves went where they pleased. If I see her again, I'll tell her father says she's to stop putting her nose in where horses drop their dinner. That do. Tell her father says to bring the needle with her, Ned said, and for a beat his throat closed. After Yoren went, the day bloomed in heat as if a huge hand had tipped a brazier over the city and held it there. Ned ate nothing. Bread lay on his plate like a mistake. Maester Pycelle came, beard combed into a gray spade, and sat with him at a remove and wheezed woes about the king's digestive who. Moors. Ned gave him a look and Pycelle found his humors less eloquent. He agreed to bring the king's seal when Ned asked for it. Varys appeared later like a shadow that had learned to speak and talked of faintings in the Queen's women, and how a certain Sellsword company had joined another Lannister cousin to drink in a certain tavern. Baelish sauntered in last, smiling as if he had invented smiles. Such industry, Littlefinger murmured, tapping the wax droppings around the seals with a fingernail. You begin to look like one of us. You had best look out, my lord. If you stay too long, you may find you like it." His eye flicked to the long black sword upon its rack. "Or the city may decide it likes you, and then none of us will get a wink of rest." "The city must learn to sleep," Ned said. "Even wolves sleep." Baelish laughed softly. "I prefer cats. They sleep with their eyes open." He wandered to the window and looked down on the swarming ants of people. The king still dies. The queen still smiles. The Tyrells still send roses to any place where there might be a young man in need of scenting. The old woman in the market still sells eels stuffed with almonds, and the brown bread woman still insists her loaves have no rat in them. The world remains comfortingly itself. It is only we who change. "The gold cloaks are to keep order," Ned said. "Not sell it." Baelish's brows went up. "Order sells very well. The city watch is the best money to be made in King's Landing if one can find a way to collect without leaving fingerprints on the till." He turned and leaned his shoulder against the embrasure. "You asked me yesterday to arrange a purse for Slint. I told you it could be done. You did not come back." "I arranged it myself," Ned said. Baelish's mouth curved, but something in it had sharpened like glass. "Ah," he said. "Then at least I am saved the trouble of telling you there is no more easy coin to be found. Not unless we begin to mint it from pewter and prayer." He pushed off the wall. "Take care which men you pay. Money is a bride who goes with whoever has the friendlier bed." He paused at the door, then half-turned. "Renly asked me to tell you he keeps his counsel in his chambers at sunset." "Renly asked you to carry his messages now?" Ned said. Baelish's eyes glinted. "He thought you might accept them from a man you trust less than you trust him. It would flatter his vanity if you came." He bowed with an ironic flourish. "We are all vain, even those who pretend we are not." Renly's apartments smelled faintly of rose oil and beeswax and clean sweat. Loras Tyrell stood near the door as if he were guarding it, his beautiful face bored. His hand rested on the pommel of a sword that had not seen real blood. The knight's mouth made a shape of courtesy when Ned entered and changed back to boredom when he stepped aside. Renly rose from a chair near the window, where a breeze made the curtains stir like slow white fish. He wore green so deep it was almost black, and gold buckles like sunlight caught in leaves. "Lord Eddard," he said, and his smile was easy because he had practiced making it easy. "I told Baelish to tell you to come. I thought he was your friend." "He is a friend to his own plans," Ned said, and saw Loras smile behind his courteous mouth. "What do you want, Lord Renly?" "I want the realm to survive the next week," Renly said, "and I want to keep my head. Both seem more likely if we do not leave Cersei to her own devices." He gestured, and Loras poured wine. "I asked you to seize them, the Queen's children, before my brother dies. Seize them, hold them. It is not gentle, but it is necessary." Ned took the cup and did not drink. "I am not a jailer of children." "No," Renly said, leaning forward. His shadow stretched long in the lowering light. "You are a father. You want to tell me you warned her. Your face says it. You would warn a she-bear that your dogs are coming. And she, being a she-bear, will chew off your leg and run where she pleases. Cersei is already moving pieces. There are sellswords on slow horses in the alleys. The kettle on Joffrey's anger is set upon the coals. When the king dies, she will drag him to the throne like a puppet and pull the strings with a smile. She is a lioness. Lions are not afraid to bloody their mouths on wolves. I have a better plan, Ned said, and watched how Renly's face did not change, but the muscles about his mouth grew attentive. We do it in daylight. When the king dies, I will bring his letter bearing the Great Seal to the throne room. The city watch will keep the peace. The king's guard will obey the letter. The queen will be told she may retire with honor to her father's keeping. The boy will be treated gently until Lord Stannis comes to take his rightful place. Stannis? Renly said, half amusement and half scorn, as if the name tasted like boiled cabbage and he could not decide if the meal was honest or poor. Hard, dry, unlovely. He will squeeze the realm into a shape that pleases him and wonder why we don't thank him. I am as much Robert's brother as he is. He spread his hands with the gold buckles winking at his wrists. The realm needs love, Lord Eddard, not law. The realm needs both, Ned said, surprising himself. Law first. Renly's eyes slid to Loras, and Loras's mouth made another private sneer that was not unkind. Renly came back to Ned. You will trust the watch to hold true when Cersei brings gold enough to float a kitchen? You will trust the Kingsguard to follow a paper against their beautiful queen and her beautiful son who promises them favors? You will trust Baelish to count coin that doesn't roll. He shook his head, not mocking now, almost pleading. Seize them at dawn. I will have 50 men outside their door. Loras will bring another 50. Barristan will not stand against you if the guards are already drawn up. The queen will snarl. Let her snarl in a locked room. The boy can cry later. Better tears than heads. I spoke to Bywater, Ned said. I paid his men. I placed patrols. I sent to Yoren. I have the seal that will name me regent. I do not need your 50 men. Renly's smile vanished. The room seemed smaller. Of course you do not, he said softly, because you have honor and law. The queen will tremble when she sees them. He took his cup and drank. If you fail, I will be gone by sunset. I will not put my head in a snare when the rope is frayed and the man holding it thinks ropes don't break. Will you run to High Garden? Ned asked. Run. Renly smiled again, but there was no amusement in it. I will move. There is a difference. The Reach loves my wife's family. They have men, ships, grain. It will matter who has the bread when the rats come out. And if I succeed, Ned said, then you will be the most powerful man in the realm, Renly said. You will need friends. I will be your friend. You will need to marry Joffrey to someone, at least until you pull him off the throne when Stannis arrives. Marry him to Marjorie. She looks a little like Lyanna, they say. Perhaps it will please your memory enough to feel like kindness.
Ned stiffened.
His hands remembered a hedge in the Riverlands and a girl whose laughter rang like a pebble dropped into cold water. He set the cup down without having drunk. You are not my enemy, Lord Renly, he said, but you are not my answer. Then let the 7 guard you, Renly said, because no one else will. He left them and walked back through the hall that smelled of rose and wax. A squire carrying armor ducked as if crossing a low door. He had hair as dark as ink and eyes like a stag startled in dusk. Ned thought of Robert when he had first come to the Vale, broad already and loud, with Benjen laughing behind him, and the memory was a knife that turned. He let it cut and bleed, then let the blood stand. Sansa waited for him in his solar that night with Septa Mordain hovering like a stiff sail. She had pinned her hair into a net of small pearls that polished it and held it back from her face, making her look older in a way that a father did not enjoy. Father, she said, and the careful formality was for the Septa's ears. I have had a message from the Queen. She invites me to take sweet milk with her on the morrow and points out that I would do well to remind the court of my regard for Joffrey. Her mouth faltered on the name, not because it hurt, but because she had smiled on it so often and found him so often the thing she had wanted him to be that she could not fit the name into what her father had told her in the Godswood. Ned had watched that, too, the way the mind protected itself by setting beauty in front of danger like a shield of art. You will not go, Ned said. The Queen and I must settle some matters tomorrow, and it will not be a day for sweet milk. Sansa's eyes went wide and wet, the way they had when she was 7 and had learned that wolves grow old. But it would be cruel, she blurted, then swallowed because the Septa's brows twitched. It would be unkind to refuse her. The Queen has been very good to me. The Queen is very good at many things, Ned said. He wanted to take her by the shoulders and tell her that nothing was what it appeared in King's Landing, and that even kindness came here with a needle tucked into its hem. He wanted to take her back to Winterfell where the air had weight and the stones told you honestly when they were cold. He could not do that, and so he did another thing. You will write to her tonight, he said. You will say that I am ill and that I beg her to forgive me for keeping my daughter near, and you will ask her leave to send her a small gift, a length of northern lace perhaps. Something from home. Sansa blinked. But it will not be true. Sometimes truth must wear a cloak, Septa Mordain said before Ned could speak. And for a moment he loved the hard old woman the way a soldier loves a wind that blows with him instead of against. It is not a sin to be polite even when you mean to do otherwise. The seven know that this city would be a kinder place if men remembered that. Sansa nodded, chastened, then brightened. Northern lace is very fine, she said. They will all want it. They want anything that is not theirs, Arya said from the doorway, and Ned had not even heard it open. She had a smear of dust on one cheek like a war stripe and a splinter in her hair that caught the candle. Her body was all elbows and certainty. Septa Mordain said I could not come, but I came. And now you will go back, the Septa said. Arya ignored her. Is it true the king is dying? She asked her father, and in her mouth the words had the shape of a challenge, as if death were another boy in the yard she wished to knock down and sit astride. Yes, Ned said. Soon. We will talk more in the morning. Tonight you both sleep and dream ordinary dreams. Arya scowled. Mine are never ordinary. I know, Ned said, and kissed the top of her head. Hide the needle where no one will find it. Keep your shoes by your bed and be ready to put them on quickly if Fat Tom tells you to. Do you understand me? Arya's eyes narrowed with the joy of being something other than a child. Yes. Sansa watched them both with a puzzled sadness that made her seem younger than she had a moment ago. Am I to keep my shoes by my bed? She asked. Yes, Ned said, and the letter to the Queen will be neat, and you will put a line in it that makes her smile when she reads it. Perhaps tell her you think the blue gown she wore at the last feast flattered her color. It did, Sansa said, warming to the subject immediately as a girl will warm to something she can imagine without fear. The sapphires at her throat shone like little eyes. Ned kissed her too and sent them away. The night grew heavy outside the shutters. He slept and woke and slept again, and each time his dreams were filled with water and stone and a girl's laughter that he could not catch because the halls were full of men in golden armor who always walked between him and the sound. Robert died just before noon. Pycelle came with his slow beard and slower eyes, and his lips made shapes around words of sorrow that bled pomp. Varys stood behind him, hands folded, head bowed as if to the seven and perhaps to something else. Ned put his hand on the parchment and felt how dry it was, how crackled. The Great Seal had impressed its lion into the wax so deeply that a blind man could have read it. Robert's signature staggered at the bottom like a drunken lord coming home after a hunt. You will bring the Kingsguard to the throne room, Ned said to Varys. Lord Commander Barristan first. The small council will attend. Janos Slynt and his officers. The gold cloaks to hold order at the doors and at the foot of the throne. Varys's eyes flicked to the parchment. And the Queen. She will come to sit with her children, Ned said, as any mother might. She will be courteous, and so will we. He looked at Pycelle. Maester, I require the Great Seal. You have it, Pycelle protested, blinking. I require it attached to paper naming me protector, Ned said. We will not carry a dead man's wistful wishes into law by rumor. Pycelle's mouth flapped and then set. I shall see to it, he said, and tottered away like a ship under too much sail. Ned walked to where ice lay and looked at the sword for a long time and then left it where it was. The blade whispered nothing and showed no disappointment. In the yard outside, boys were at their wooden swords. The ring of wood on wood was crisp, like apples cut with a new knife. Ser Aaron Santagar, arms master of the Red Keep, oversaw them with the patient severity of a man who knows exactly what wounds boys will always give themselves no matter how many times you tell them not to. He and Ned exchanged the sort of nod that soldiers give each other when neither has any quarrel with the other and both are too careful to make new friends on the day a king dies. The throne room stood hot as a kiln. Sunlight fell through long windows to lay bars of white gold on the floor, and dust moved in it like slow rain. The Iron Throne itself crouched at the head of the steps, blades and points making a black frost against the light. Ned had always thought it a foolish piece of furniture, too honest in its threat. He took his place before it with a silence in him that he fed with breath. Bywater had his men at the doors and at the columns. Hard-eyed men with long staves and blades that had been honed in the last hour. The nicks were still chalk white. The small council gathered. Pycelle held the paper with the seal like a priest holding bread. Baelish smiled. Varys drifted like a waft of humid air to a place near the pillar from which he could see every face. Lord Commander Barristan Selmy came in steel that had known many queens and many fools. He bowed to the throne and to Ned equally. When he stood, his face was clean as a winter sky. The queen came last, her gown a cascade of midnight velvet that drank color from the room. Joffrey walked at her side, a step ahead because the boy believed the world approached him to listen. Tommen trotted in his wake, pink and earnest. Myrcella's hair had been braided in a river of gold down her back. She looked as if she had been told to be brave and had decided to obey. Sandor Clegane shadowed them, his burned face like old wood. The King's Guard arrayed themselves around their queen, white cloaks falling clean as snow, white armor catching the light until it made the eye ache. "Lord Stark," Cersei said, with a smile that dispensed with courtesies because her beauty had taught her she could be forgiven for not needing them. "You have something to say." Ned stood and did not look at her. He looked at Barristan. "Your Grace," he said to Joffrey, "we are come upon a day that the gods have chosen. King Robert Baratheon, first of his name, has died." A sound rolled through the chamber that was not a gasp and not a sigh, but something like both. "He left instructions," Ned continued, "that the governance of the realm should be placed into the hands of named persons until the rightful heir assumes the throne. Maester, read." Pycelle's voice was old parchment. He sounded as if he might crumble on the last syllable. "Be it by my hand and seal," he droned, "that in the event that I am taken from this world, Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, shall serve as protector of the realm and regent, to govern in my stead until the rightful heir shall come of age." Cersei laughed once, a sound without warmth. "Until the rightful heir." She tilted her head at Ned. It was not a question, it was a dare. "We have a rightful heir at hand. All the realm has eyes. They can see the king." Ned felt the heat in his bones. He kept his voice as dry as rope. "Stannis Baratheon will come to take his place," he said. "Until that day, the law speaks through me." He nodded. Bywater's men stepped as one to form a rank at the base of the steps, staves down. Littlefinger's eyes sparkled. He looked like a man at a puppet show who has paid for his seat and intends to enjoy what he has purchased, even if the puppets bite. Cersei's gaze went flat. "Tear it," she said to her brother, who had not come. Then she made a tiny move as if she herself would reach for the paper. Barristan Selmy moved before anyone else. He stepped into the space between the queen and the seal and drew himself up until his white cloak fell straight as law. "Your Grace," he said to Cersei, and in his voice was an iron that came from before any of them had been born. "The letter has the Great Seal and the King's name. Until that is countermanded by lawful writ, we obey." He turned his head a fraction to look at Ned. "Lord Protector." Ned bowed his head a fraction in return. The room tipped a very small amount as if the world had shifted on some deep axle. Joffrey flushed a high-cheated red. "I am the king," he shouted, high and broken. "I am the king. Mother." "Peace, sweetling," Cersei murmured, and her eyes did not move from Ned's face. "This is insolence. It will not stand." "It will," Ned said, "until a lawful writ replaces it. You will not be harmed, Your Grace. None of you will be harmed. You will retire to your chambers and travel within the Red Keep with no more than 2 sworn brothers at your side. The King's Guard will attend the throne and the Queen as ever they have. The City Watch will hold peace. There will be no proclamations until the Council has met." Cersei's smile had become a thing of fine edges. "You think you have bought your guards with tin toys," she said. "Janos Slynt is loyal to the crown." "Janos Slynt is loyal to Janos Slynt," Ned said. "And today, the crown speaks through me." He let his gaze slide to Sandor Clegane. "Ser Sandor, you serve the crown too. Keep the prince's temper. No one will lay a hand on him while he stands under my peace." The hound's burned face made any expression complicated. His eyes were pale, pale as a winter pool. He looked at Joffrey as men look at fires, wary, knowing how a thing can leap. He said, I can keep the boy from running his head into a pike like a stubborn goat. I make no promises to keep his tongue in his mouth. Cersei's lip lifted and set. She measured the room. She measured Barristan and the white cloaks who were still white. She measured Varys, who wore nothing you could weigh. She measured Baelish, whose smile made a small hollow in the air that anything might fall into. She measured the gold cloaks with their staves and the hand with his pin, and she measured her children. Even then, she was beautiful. Beauty had carried her a long way. Where beauty would not go, her father's gold would. Ned saw the thought pass over her like a shadow of a hawk. He did not allow himself the weakness of liking her for being brave in the instant she knew she had lost one round. She took Joffrey's hand. We will go then, she said.
Come tommen.
Myrcella.
Ser Merin. Ser Boros. Ser Aris.
Her cloak swept behind her like a tide withdrawing. It left the room and took the scent of powder and night with it. The sound that came with her leaving was not relief, merely difference. Joffrey wrenched his hand out of hers at the door and looked back with poison. You think you can shame me, he spat. You think you can lock me away like a girl. I am. Take him, Cersei said quietly to the Hound. The Hound took the boy's arm with a grip that allowed the boy to keep most of his flesh. Come, he said. When they had gone, Ned exhaled what felt like his first breath in days. He turned to the council. We will meet in an hour, he said. Maester, send for parchment. Lord Baelish, the treasury books. Lord Varys, the garrison lists and ship manifests. Lord Commander, you will place 2 of your men at each of the Queen's doors and 2 at mine. Captain Bywater, set guards at the city gates. No man in Lannister colors leaves the city without writ of the council. If Lord Slint objects, tell him to bring his objections to me. Pycelle bowed and tottered. Varys bowed and disappeared, which was a feat in a crowd. Baelish looked at the throne as if wondering how it would look with his coat thrown over it like a jacket over a chair. But of course, he said silkily, if we are to be respectable, we must make records. Barristan lingered. You have done a brave thing, he said softly to Ned. I have done a necessary thing, Ned said. Brave, Selmy repeated, not disagreeing. Brave men die early. His eyes were old. They had seen children knocked from saddles and heads go under in hallways and treasuries built like towers of sand. I will keep the boy safe, he said. If the boy lets me. And the Queen. Keep the realm safe, Ned said. If you can. When he reached the Tower of the Hand, his men straightened as if the air had grown suddenly brittle. Fat Tom looked like a man trying to swallow a loaf whole. All well? Ned asked. A messenger came from the Queen, Tom said, to invite the Lady Sansa to the gardens. I told him the Lady Sansa is ill with a northern fever and must not be out in the sun. Good, Ned said. He went to Arya's door himself. She sat cross-legged on the floor, her hair a cloud, her sword across her thighs. She looked up at him the way a small fierce dog looks when you pull up at the gate, ready to see if you are bringing meat or strangers. You will go with Yoren tonight, he said. Arya blinked. To the wall. To the gate, Ned said. To the North Road. To the river, then perhaps to the Trident. You will not be going to the wall if I can help it. You will be going to Winterfell. I will send Sansa after you as soon as I can. You will go with 1 man in a black cloak who smells like bad beds and 1 woman who looks like a septa and is, but is also not. You will not argue. You will not show people your sword. You will not tell them your name. You will remember you are my daughter even when you are being someone else. Arya's eyes shone with tears that did not fall. I don't want to leave you, she said. I don't want to let you, Ned said. We do not get everything we want. I want a lot of things I cannot have. I want your mother here at my side and Bran running in the yard. I want Winterfell's cold and a morning without blood. Instead, I want you alive. We will start there. She swallowed, nodding, jaw clenched as if holding something inside that wanted out. Sansa will hate it, she said. She loves her songs, Ned said. Perhaps I should have burned all the harps in Winterfell, and then she would love hard boots. He smiled. Do not repeat that to her. He knelt, and for a moment the smell of her hair, the wool of her shirt, the dust on her were all the world. When you go, go fast. If a man tries to stop you, bite him and run. If he is too big, break his foot with your heel and run. If he does not leave you a road, make one. Arya nodded so fiercely that her hair scattered the candlelight. What of Syrio? She asked.
Ned paused.
He will go his own way. He is not mine to command. I will tell him, Arya said. He will understand. He says. She stopped and bit her lip. Never mind what he says. I'll tell him. Tell him I will pay him twice what I owe him if he arrives in Winterfell and asks for it at the gate, Ned said. She laughed, quick and thin, and then leaned forward and pressed her face against his chest like a very small child, which rediscovered him as the only strong thing in the room. He held her tightly and then let her go before either of them made a sound that would embarrass the other. He found Sansa with Septa Mordain, writing wrapped in neat penstrokes that glowed as if they were proud of being straight. She had sealed the letter to the Queen and was making another to Jane Poole for reasons of her own. He took her hands, kissed them, and told her that a seamstress would come later to adjust a traveling cloak for her because the nights could be chilly even here sometimes. She frowned, but nodded. Amenable again as a girl is when the thing you ask of her does not sound like a cruelty until it becomes one. The council met. They spoke until the light went from the windows and the torches refilled it. Baelish argued for keeping the Queen close with silk and offers. Pycelle wheezed about precedent and sugary prayers. Varys talked about ships and docks and who had bought up the riverboat's cargoes of grain the week before. Ned signed papers. He sealed with the Great Seal. He sent Bywater to the gates and had him change the lists of men on duty, so that the ones who were married and the ones whose children were sick were kept nearest the keep where they could be watched by the fear of losing what they loved. He had Lannister guards in the castle asked to swear again the oaths they had once sworn and watched the small hesitations, and placed them in halls where their hesitations would make men careful. At midnight he walked the ramparts. The night had cooled, and the stars looked like more ceilings on a black parchment. The city lay beneath like a sleeping beast whose ribs showed. From the river came the occasional clatter of a mast knocking against a pier. On the steps below him, a rat ran with businesslike energy, and Ned startled it into stillness merely by existing. Then it streaked away, and he decided he preferred rats to men today, for rats had simple purposes. When he returned, Varys waited in his solar like a polite plague. "The Queen sends for Ser Lancel," he said lightly. "The King's squire. He fetches her wine and words from men who do not know they are sending them. Ser Meryn visits the kitchens, where a certain woman who used to be from Lannisport cannot help having a sister who still has a friend whose cousin shines the shoes of one of Lord Baelish's guards. Do you see? Threads, my lord. The city is a web, and we are all flies." "Are you spider or fly?" Ned asked. Varys smiled. "I am a man who prefers the web not be set on fire. Lord Tywin rides east with an army. If you hold his daughter, he will ride faster. Let him," Ned said.
"Ah, vari breted."
"Honor with a blade on it. Sharp. Mind your hands." He went to the window and looked at the city. "A raven flew from Dragonstone at dusk," he added, almost idly. "Some ravens are blacker than others. Lord Stannis has few birds, but they fly true." Ned felt a small loosening in his chest that he refused to call hope. Good. When the dawn came, less aglow than the dark admitting it had lost, the city wore a hush like ash. The ravens went as if they had been waiting and took the air with a rush of wings that stirred even the sluggish heat. Sansa's cloak came, and Ned watched the seamstress fit it as if its hem might catch him too. Arya wore her boy's clothes under her dress and a scowl over them. Septa Mordain clucked. Fat Tom checked the hall twice, then twice again. Varys brought word that Renly had gone in the night with a train of green men like a procession of young leaves. "Loras took 50 well-mounted men," Varys said. and left the city like a man who had been told the house was about to collapse and had decided to visit a friend. Good, Ned said, although part of him disliked the idea that courage could be put on like a cloak and taken off when a man felt warm enough. He disliked it because a part of him understood it. He sent Sansa at midday with Septa Mordane to the Sept under guard to pray for the king, and then had them brought back again by a different way than they had gone. He told the captain of the second detachment, a man with a broken nose and the soft eyes of a father, to stop and speak loudly to a peddler at the corner of the Street of Sisters. The peddler was one of Varys's. The loud talking would be for the ears of anyone who thought to mark their path. It would tell them something that was true and not helpful. He hated that he needed tricks. He used them anyway. Near dusk, Bywater brought Janos Slint. The Lord Commander's mouth had a greasy shine, as if his words were fried in fat. "You overstep," Slint said without courtesy. "You move my men as if they were your footstools. You stick your nose into the watch as if it were your rabbit hutch. The city watch answers to the city. The city answers to the crown," Ned said, not rising. "And the crown is mine until the lawful heir comes to take it off my head." "The queen is not the crown," Ned said. Slint's eyes went narrow. "There's coin in every purse," he said, "and some purses have more coin than others." "Captain Bywater," Ned said, "compose a list of officers for the Lord Commander's consideration." He held Slint's gaze. "I would know who stands where when a riot begins. I would know who goes which way when someone throws a tor. Ch." He picked up a small sealing ring rather than the Great Seal because the small one was nearer his hand and less ceremony made his meaning more plain. "You may sell your own honor if you like, Lord Commander," he said, the last two words soft enough to be insult. "But you will not sell mine, and you will not sell the peace." Slint's grin was a wound that had not closed properly. "You're very sure of your peace, Northman," he said. "It might be you are so sure because you don't understand the shape of war." "I have seen war," Ned said. "I know how it looks before it is named." "Do you know how it tastes?" Slint asked. "It tastes like meat you cannot spit out." He spat on the floor anyway, then thought better and rubbed it in with his boot as if making polish. He left. Bywater bowed and stayed. "Thank you," Ned said. "For what?" Bywater asked. "For not leaving with him," Ned said. Bywater's mouth twitched, which might have been his version of a smile. "I serve the realm," he said. And then, as if testing the words for flavor, "and the law." He bowed again and went out with his missing finger and his patience. Ned sent a boy to the kitchens to ask for a little broth for the girls and a chunk of cheese to please Arya, who said she did not care for cheese and then always ate it first. He took the moment to be alone with his sword. He touched ice as one might touch a sleeping hound and felt the old iron of Winterfell melt into his hand. If he closed his eyes, he could smell snow. He opened them quickly. He would not be the man who dreamed when he should be listening. Night came again, and in the night came men. They came in pairs at first, messengers with notes from the captain at the Mud Gate, then from the Lion Gate, then from the River Gate, each saying much the same thing. That the patrols had been quiet, that one or two men in the alleys had faded when they saw the staves, that a woman had screamed and then said she had only seen a rat. Later came a man with eyes that kept sliding off things and landing somewhere else. "Sire," he said to Tom, who sent him to Ned. "A man at the fish market says some Lannister men went into a warehouse owned by Lord Baelish's factor. Boxes of something heavy came in earlier. Wine, they said, but it moved like lead." "Move men there," Ned said. "Not too many. Stand outside. Write down every man who goes in and every man who comes out. Make them show you their sword hands. Do not go in." The man's eyes slid to the left again and then pinned themselves on Ned's face as if by will. "Aye," he said, proud of having been given something that sounded like a plan. Near midnight, someone pounded on the tower door. Tom moved to block whoever it was. A voice barreled through the wood. "Open, you fat pigeon," it said. "It's the Lord Commander." Barristan Selmy strode in, his white cloak gray at the hem from night and his face the calm of a man who had run and was not out of breath. "The Queen tries to move her children," he said without preface. She says the heat in the Red Keep is too much and that the gardens offer relief. She has a litter at the south postern. Ser Meryn and Ser Boros with her. Lannister guards in green doublets that hide their bows. Ned's heartbeat became a drum. "Bywater," he said to Tom. "Already sent," Tom said. "The captain had men in that ward." "Good," Ned said. He took a breath and made his voice a plank you could walk on. "We go down. Slowly. You bring 20 men," he told Tom. "Desmond with 10 to the hidden stair by the old armory. No one draws steel unless someone draws first." They met the queen in the passage where a narrow torch threw a hot wedge of light and the rest was puddling darkness. She stood with her hand on her son's shoulder and the other on the litter's frame. Joffrey's face had set into the hard lines he used when he wanted to be a statue of a king rather than a boy. Tommen clutched a little stuffed lion as if the lion might do any good. Myrcella was very still. Her hair drank the torchlight. "Lord Stark," Cersei said, "I take my children to the gardens for air." "At midnight," Ned said. "The air will keep. Are you their jailer then, you who said you were not?" Her voice cut in such thin strips that one might have thought thinness made it less dangerous. "I am the regent," Ned said. "You may take them to the gardens in daylight. You may take them with named companions. You may not take them with bows and litters and guards in doublets with hidden knives." She laughed very softly, almost to herself. "You think yourself very clever. You cannot keep a queen in a cage." Ned thought of a young woman with blue roses in her hair, and of a tower, and of how men had once kept him in a cage of a kind. He kept his face. "I can keep the peace," he said. Barristan stood at his shoulder, an old tower that had found a way to move. He did not put his hand on his sword. The hound leaned on the doorway like a peeling statue. Men in cloaks of the watch stood with staves, and for once their staves were the most frightening thing in the corridor because they did not need to be drawn to be used. "Take the litter back," Ned said. "In the morning, we will all breathe the same air and call it sweet." Cersei looked at him as if she might bite him. "You will be sorry," she said. "I often am," Ned said. She shook her head with contempt that was honest. She turned the litter herself, because turning things herself was a habit with her, and vanished down the corridor with the speed of a woman who intends to be the one to tell the story of her own retreat. On the way back up the stair, Ned's knees went watery in that way knees have when the body remembers it is a thing of meat and not of oak. He leaned for one instant against the cold stone wall and let it take his weight. He had a moment of quiet before dawn. He spent it writing again. To Stannis, this time, "Robert is dead. I hold the city in law's name. Come, bring ships." He sealed it and put the seal to the candle until it smoked. He went to Sansa and told her she must be ready to ride at a word, and she nodded as if she had been told a dance figure. He went to Arya and told her it would be tonight, and she grinned so fiercely that it lit the dim room like a candle. When the sun pushed up, the ships on the river looked like quills stuck in a blue back. The city yawned. It had decided, perhaps, to let the new day be what it was. 3 hours later, a riot began on the Street of Flower when a boy tried to snatch a loaf from a baker, and the baker hit him with a paddle, and men who had been waiting for an excuse found one. Bywater's men broke it with staves rather than swords, and the paddle went into a fire where it belonged, and the boy ran and would later tell his mother that he had been at the middle of the day the king died and 3 men had died and he had not. News like that only lived if it carried its own bread to eat. At midday, Varys brought him a small casket. "Letters," he said. "The queen writes to Lord Tywin. She writes to her cousin at the Rock. She writes to the High Septon, who will take half a day to decide that he serves the gods and another half a day to decide that his gods wear gold." "How?" Ned asked. "We watch the gates. Birds go where men do not," Varys said with soft triumph. "And so do women whose skirts hold more than cloth. I only opened the casket so that I could tell you I had the ability to open it." Ned looked at him until the other man lowered his eyes. "Read them," he said. "If there is something in them that cuts, tell me where to put my hands." He paused. "And if there is something in them that does not matter, burn it." Varys bowed. "As you command." That evening he sat with Barristan in the small council chamber and drank cider that had been carried from Winterfell 3 years ago, tasted now of apples and of a long way between. "You remind me of your father," Selmy said without decoration. "I barely remember him," Ned replied. He remembered a smell of leather, the shape of hands resting on a table, laughter that had sounded like quiet thunder. He remembered him leaving and not returning. "He had a way of making a word stick," Barristan said. "Men came away carrying a yes or a no like a badge. Not everyone liked it, but they knew where they stood. Kings like that in their hands. Queens less so. Queens like a sword that can become a needle," Ned said. "Big when you want it, small when you need it." Selmy huffed. "The Queen will not forgive this. Lord Tywin will not forgive this. That is a lot of not forgiveness to set yourself against. I hope Stannis rides quickly." "He sails," Ned said. "He has always been stubborn about the sea." The old knight smiled, a rare sight. "A man who will not stop building ships in the teeth of mockery may be a man the realm needs. He will be no one's delight." "Delight is in short supply," Ned said. He climbed the steps to the girls with the cider warming his belly in a way that was uncomfortably close to comfort. The air was thick, but the corridor was quieter than it had been in days. Fat Tom stood at his post with a face that looked like it had been carved by someone who had never seen a smile. "Yoren came," Tom said. "He waits by the old fish pond with a donkey cart and a woman he says is kin to a man you do not know." His eyes wobbled a little humor that did not get far. "He says you will understand." "I do," Ned said. "Bring Arya. Bring Septa Mordain. If anyone asks where they go, say that Arya has decided she must learn to tell carp from pike at night." "You think anyone would believe that?" "No," Ned said. "I think they will stop listening after Arya has decided." Arya came quickly. Septa Mordain nodded and squared her shoulders as if to take a blow that might be coming down a hallway. Sansa came too, unexpected, with her hair loose and her face flushed. "I will not be left," she said, too loud, the voice trembling because it had to. "I will not be left here when Joffrey, when the Queen, when—" She swallowed, and the words tumbled out of their order. "I am to be the Queen. You are to be Sansa," Ned said. The ache in his chest made it hard to speak. "You are to breathe and be stubborn. You are to remember your home." He gentled his voice. "Soon," he told her, a lie of kindness, because even lies came with weight here and must be measured. "Not tonight. Tonight you must help me. You must be the woman who keeps the candles lit while we move our feet in the dark." She stared at him out of eyes that had learned too much song. Then she drew herself up. "I will keep the candles," she said faintly. She did not look at Arya. That was an old habit. She clung to it as to a rope. They moved through the servants' ways, down where the stones sweated and the smells piled up. Onion, horse piss, the sour of old washwater. Yoren waited by the pond that pretended to be a natural place but had been put here by a king who had thought a quiet corner would make his palace feel less like a fortress. The donkey cart had a wobbly wheel. The woman beside it wore a dark veil and a gentleness that could conceal a dirk. Arya looked at her and gave her a look back that said the girl was taking her measure and finding it acceptable. "Go," Ned said, and then, because he was a father and the wall he had built kept back more than men could know, he bent and kissed Arya's hair and then Septa Mordain's hand, which smelled of the soap she scrubbed her girls with, and he could feel how those simple smells wanted to break him. He watched the cart until it slid out of sight beneath the low arch. He stood until the sounds of its wheels faded under the usual cough of the Red Keep's veins. He closed his eyes and then opened them. He walked back up into the heat that smelled like a forge. The days that followed did not feel like days, only like one long thing broken into pieces by the sun sing and falling. Stannis's raven came with few words. He was on the water. He would bring ships. He would bring men. He would bring a command of law that made Ned think of a blade with no hilt. Renly's absence left a gap. The Reach was a ship not yet deciding which port paid more. The Lannister men in the city tightened and loosened in waves like breath. Baelish's accounts showed poverty that felt like a trick and might have been, and also might not have been. Rumors sprouted like mushrooms in damp, that Cersei had poisoned the king and would poison the next one, that Eddard Stark planned to burn the city and blame him for the smoke, that the queen had taken a lover, that the queen had taken 3 lovers and called them all by the same name to save confusion, that the Hand had sold the grain to the Dornish to starve the capital, that he intended to marry Sansa to Lord Renly, that he intended to marry Sansa to Stannis, that he intended to marry Sansa to a rat with a gold ring in its tail. Ned found, to his surprise, that there was a freedom in hearing such nonsense. When lies grew large enough, they seemed to diminish the liar. In private, Cersei came once, with her anger tied up in a cloth. She placed it on the table and unknotted it as if to show him what lay there. "You play with men," she said. "You act as if you understand them. You are a wolf from the back of nowhere. You think men are trees. If you lean hard on them, they bend or stand or break. Men are men. They move because their wives cry, or because their sons need boots, or because they like the look of themselves in a polished pot. They move because their fathers hated them and because they wish to be loved, because they see themselves reflected in boys. You do not understand that. You think one thing can be one thing." Ned let her pour her words. He watched a fly land on the lip of her cup and drink and then fly away. "I think the law is the law," he said. "I think a child should not be punished for his mother's sin. I think a man should not be killed for another man's pride." She smiled slowly. "I think men like you are why men like my father are necessary," she said. "He has a way of making questions smaller. Smaller is not always better," Ned said, and it surprised him that he could enjoy saying it. She rose in one fluid movement. "When my father comes, he will not ask your permission to leave," she said. "Do not mistake your steward's lists for armies. Do not mistake your father's armies for a god," Ned said, and then, because there was nothing more, he stood and bowed and gave her his silence as an escort. She took that because she took everything. The day before the first sails from Dragonstone were seen on the horizon, Sansa came to him with a face too smooth. "I have written to the queen," she said. "I told her I pray for her. I told her I hope she visits us in Winterfell one day. I told her I would have sent her northern lace, but the seamstress took it for herself. I think that last was wicked. The gods will not mind. They have other things to watch." Ned set his hands on her shoulders. He felt how narrow they were. He thought of all the swords he had carried and how light they were compared to a daughter. "The gods do not mind small lies told to keep peace," he said. "They mind great lies told to make war." "What is a great lie?" Sansa asked. "That a boy is a king because he sits in a chair," Ned said. "That a man is strong because he has the loudest voice." She considered this as if it were a piece of embroidery that might be improved with more blue. "Joffrey wants to see me," she said. "The queen sent word that if I do not come, she will think I am not grateful." "Are you grateful?" Ned asked. Sansa's mouth opened and closed. "I am not ungrateful," she said at last, and for a moment he wished to be in Winterfell where he could take her into the Godswood and let her speak to trees until her words caught up with themselves. "You will not go," he said. "When Stannis comes, there will be new arrangements. You will likely go north." She nodded as if this were not a blade inside her. He watched her turn and go and thought of Cat beside the glass lantern in the bedchamber at Winterfell, and of the crackle of the fire, and of the way she had said his name when she called him to her in the night. He felt loneliness then as a thing with teeth. The sails from Dragonstone came white and sure against the sea, and the city went to the walls to gawk. The ships were not the Lannisters' red-castled galleys. These had a sternness to their lines like a man who had not laughed in too many years. Stannis stepped ashore with a face like a clenched fist. Behind him came his men, soldiers with a sameness that bespoke drill, and knights with faces that had been polished by salt air rather than court. There was a priest with them as well, robed strangely in red, whose eyes were darker than the rest. Ned felt something in him reject that man, not because of faith but because of the slow smile the priest gave Stannis as if he had finally put a peace in place he had been working at for a long time. They met in the council chamber. Stannis looked around it as if he had expected it to be smaller. He put his hand on the table and tapped once with a knuckle. "My brother is dead," he said. "The boy is not his. The girl and the younger boy are also not his. Lord Tywin will come. Renly plays at crowns. Tyrells will play with him. You hold the city. Good." He looked up and met Ned's gaze without flinching. "We will make war. We will make law," Ned said. Stannis's mouth thinned. "Law is war by other means," he said. "I have learned that lesson." "Perhaps you learned it in a hard school," Ned said. "But you are here. The queen is contained. The princes are alive. The men of this city have not begun to starve yet. We can make something other than fire on water." "Can we?" Stannis asked. "Lord Tywin will not be argued with. Have seen his work. He burns fields and then asks why no one brings him bread. He makes wine with blood and says it tastes of duty. Then let him come," Ned said. "He will find walls and law. He will find a people who have not yet been told they must pay with their children. He will find a Northman," Stannis said flatly, and then, for the first time, a very small smile ghosted across his face and was gone. "Good. I have not had one of those at my side since Jon Arryn," he said. "He was a good man. He said the truth as if it were a nail one hammered into a plank. I will take your truth. We will see how many nails the plank can hold."
Ned nodded.
He did not offer his hand. Stannis did not expect him to. They looked at each other over the table like men in a winter who have decided to share a fire but will not share blankets. It would be work. Work was something Ned trusted. In the days that followed, proclamations went out under the Great Seal. The boy Joffrey was declared a prince of Casterly Rock and a royal ward for his own protection. The queen was to remain at the Red Keep in comfort and honor until such time as the council saw fit to enlarge her freedoms. And any man who tried to remove her or any of the royal children from the capital without the council's leave would be seized as a traitor. Stannis had men placed at the gates in ranks that looked like counting. The Red Priest watched the city as if it were a brazier he might set coals in. Varys chittered and smiled. Baelish's smirk thinned. Pycelle wheezed. Barristan kept his white cloak white. Arya, somewhere on the river road, broke her bread in a way that made Yoren think of wolves. Sansa, in the tower, kept candles lit until the wax ran out and then had more brought. She wrote letters, and some of them went to nothing, and some of them made small nets that caught small fish, and she was proud of that and did not tell her father because she thought he would only say law again, and she needed to feel as if she too were doing something that mattered. Beyond the city, the gold fields of the Reach rippled like quiet seas. In the riverlands, smoke began to lay its dull fingers on the air. Ravens went out and came in, and some did not return. Men brought stories about wolves seen on the King's Road and of a boy lord gathering banners in the north. Ned read those and felt the shape of a different pain. Robb was a boy with his mother's eyes and his father's temper moderated by a kindness that had surprised Ned when he first saw it in his son's dealings with the smith's apprentices. The idea of Robb marching south with his father still in the south made the world shift in a way Ned did not approve. He found himself in the Godswood again as heat drew down and gnats stitched the air. The pool was the same and not the same. His reflection watched him with a tired curiosity. He knelt as he had before, and did not ask forgiveness this time. He told the trees the truth. He told them he had made a wall and put his daughters on one side, and on the other side he had placed law and kings and men with swords. He told them he had found allies with edges of their own. He told them he had no wish to be great. He wanted to be useful. He wanted to be a man who put things back into their places when storms had thrown them onto the floor. When he rose, he found Varys in the shadow again, as if the eunuch traveled underground and popped up where he pleased. "You have been very busy, my lord," Varys said. "And yet there is always more to do. It is charming, is it not? One lives, one works, one dies, and the work goes on." "Do you think we will hold?" Ned asked. Varys's mild eyes were kind. "Oh, my dear lord," he said. "Hold is a beautiful word in a city built on sand." He tilted his head. "But perhaps, with law for mortar and a little blood for water, one might make something that stands long enough for a generation or two to eat in peace." That would be something. That would be a feat of which bards of a certain stripe might sing, though never on key. Bards do not come to Winterfell, Ned said. They die on the road before they reach the neck. Varys smiled. Then perhaps we will build a road. They stood together in the not quiet. The frogs peeped again. The red keep murmured. The city yawned in the west. A breeze touched the pool and collected the smallest cool from it, then touched Ned's face with a sympathy that had nothing to do with gods, only with water's tendency to remember where it had been. Men would come. Tywin with his order kept by fire. Renly with his roses on swords. The rivers would rise and the fields would burn and the ravens would write their crooked letters in the sky. A winter was somewhere ahead, pacing, patient. Ned felt the first day in weeks when every breath did not taste of iron. He had not won. Winning was a word for mummers' plays. He had not lost. He had survived. He had chosen. He had made a space in which other choices could breathe. When he left the Godswood, a boy was waiting by the gate with a note and a face that wanted to please. The note bore Stannis Baratheon's unlovely hand. It said, "The Lord of Casterly Rock rides. The river lords stir. We will be ready," said nothing else. It did not need to. Ned tucked it into his belt and walked back through the corridors where the torches were being lit one by one like small soldiers marched into place. Sansa would be sitting with her septa, practicing the new suppers she would like to serve when she was lady of a hall again. Arya would be under the stars somewhere, possibly telling Yoren that fish did not feel because they did not have words for their pain. He smiled despite himself. Ice waited in its rest like old night. The hand's pin lay cool on his chest. The city sweated and lived and would go on living even if men of greater name than his fell or rose. He allowed himself the luxury of standing very still in the middle of his chamber while the last light fled, and listening to the sound of a woman's laughter that lived in him like a small fire that had refused to be put out by weather. He did not say her name. He did not need to. Outside, the watch changed. Inside, the Northmen in the south breathed and counted the breaths as if they were the steadying steps of a man moving through snow with a heavy load, toward a shape not yet visible but guessed at by the way the light was changing behind the far trees. There was work to do. He would do it. He moved. The night leaned in to listen.